What started happening is that a lot of people started saying, well, I guess he was a spy. I guess Michael Kovrig was a spy.
Yeah, that really hurt. It hurt for a range of reasons. First of all, it's not true.
Michael Kovrig is finally ready to tell his own story for the first time, and he's telling it to us. Tonight, the Canadian on how he survived years in custody after being grabbed off the street in Beijing.
We came up a spiral staircase and boom, there's a dozen men in black, cameras on them, surrounding us, shouting in Chinese, that's him.
Jailed, accused of espionage, interrogated relentlessly. How did Michael Kovrig make it through this?
What more should Canada have done?
Israel unleashes on Hezbollah. Lebanon says hundreds of people were killed. What more could be coming? And the moment a teenage football player meets the woman who inspired him.
Oh my God, you were amazing. It is really like a men's world, but I think we can take our place in that.
Two kickers breaking barriers on the field.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. Michael Kovrig is emerging from a nightmare, nabbed near his Beijing home, blindfolded and secreted away. He became China's captive, a pawn in a high-stakes political game. Well, tonight, for the very first time, he is speaking publicly about it all, telling us his story. One of Canada's two Michaels, Kovrig was detained by China after Canada detained Chinese executive Meng Wanzhou. He was accused of being a spy, held for years as that diplomatic crisis dragged on. It's been almost 3 years to the day since Kovrig was released. We sat down recently to talk in detail about what happened the night he was taken and the long shadow of that original accusation of spying.
When you're detained, you're in a system that is trying to convince you you're a bad man, you're a prisoner, you're a hostage.
You're a spy.
Exactly.
Michael Kovrig is home and safe, but he knows he's not really free from an infuriating cloud of suspicion some see around him. China accused him of spying without evidence, and despite Kovrig's denials and those of the Canadian government, for some, the label lingers.
It hurt for a range of reasons. First of all, it's not true. I've never been a spy of any kind. I was a foreign service officer, a diplomat. The kind of work I do requires complete transparency and it requires trust.
Kovrig is still wrapping his head around what happened, and he's still mad at himself a bit. When Meng Wanzhou, the Huawei executive, was arrested in Vancouver at the behest of Washington, it was Kovrig people around the world turned to for analysis on what China might do next.
Did it occur to you that they might grab some Canadians?
I analyzed it, I think, a little too rationally, thinking that there's no point in doing something to Canada because it's not Canada's decision ultimately.
He and his partner were having that very discussion after dinner in Beijing a few days after Meng's arrest, when he says masked men dragged him into a car.
They pulled my partner, who at the time was 6 months pregnant, away from me. So my number one concern at that point was her safety and our baby's safety. And they slapped handcuffs on me and then put a blindfold over my eyes. Just before they pushed me into the car, I looked back at my partner and we made eye contact for a split second, and I just tried to, I don't know, be safe, take care of yourself. I will get out of this one day, but I don't know when I'll ever see you again. Did all of that in an instant, and then gone.
His child was 2.5 years old when he finally saw her for the first time.
I'll never forget that sense of wonder, of everything being new and wonderful again, and pushing my daughter on a swing, and her saying to her mother, "Mommy, I'm so happy."
Michael Kovrig has more to say about who's to blame, who to thank, and how he coped. He says he's on a bit of a gratitude tour, because to be free is something he will never take for granted. Kovrig also said he doesn't fault the efforts of Canadian officials to get him home, but he thinks there are lessons to be learned here, changes that could help others in the future. Ashley Burke picks up that part of the story.
It was a moment of relief in 2021 as the Prime Minister greeted Michael Kovrig after he was released by China. Now Kovrig says his goal is to make sure an ordeal like this never happens again.
At the end of the day, you need to prioritize getting your citizens home.
Kovrig says when China detained him, Canada didn't know how to respond.
The Canadian government was not prepared. The U.S. government wasn't prepared for the blowback from arresting Meng Wanzhou. And so it took them a long time to figure out what to do.
Canada says China arrested Kovrig in retaliation for its arrest of Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou. She faced fraud charges in the U.S. The Foreign Affairs Minister at the time says a lot was going on behind the scenes.
I can remember my meeting with the Chinese foreign minister in Rome, for example, which lasted hours. There were a number of discussions with our ambassador on the ground.
It was only when Washington settled Meng's case that China finally let Kovrig go.
Ultimately, it took President Joe Biden to make the hard decisions that others were not willing or able to make previously.
His ordeal behind him, Kovrig is calling for change.
We need to take measures more strongly and more quickly to protect ourselves.
Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister says the government's partnered with 75 countries on an initiative to send a message to the world that it won't accept arbitrary detention.
We will never accept that our citizens be used as pawns in this geopolitical game.
But within Canada, a report by Kovrig's former wife, who's an international security expert, says that Canada hasn't made any of the necessary legislative or capacity changes to better address these cases. And 3 years after Kovrig's release, still hasn't published any of its lessons learned. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
So how did Michael Kovrig make it through all the interrogations, the isolation, the more than 1,000 days in custody? That and so much more of our conversation in just a few minutes. Well, there's been a dramatic escalation tonight in the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. Lebanese authorities now say more than 400 people were killed today in Israeli airstrikes. Israel says it was targeting the militant group. Chris Brown now with the panic on the ground and the deepening concern about what could happen next.
Israel's warplanes unleashed an onslaught on Lebanon, hitting what Israel's military claims were hundreds of Hezbollah targets, including people's homes, where the Israeli military says the militant group kept missiles and ammunition.
This is an advance warning for your own safety and the safety of your family.
Copying a tactic used before it pulverized much of Gaza, Israel's military told civilians to leave and sent text message warnings to tens of thousands. But this would be Lebanon's deadliest day in almost 20 years, as the death toll soared, with dozens of children among the dead, say Lebanese authorities. The continuing Israeli aggression on Lebanon is a war of extermination, said Ziad Makari.
I have a message for the people of Lebanon.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke directly to people in Lebanon.
Israel's war is not with you, it's with Hezbollah.
On Lebanon's roads, there was panic. There were strikes, warplanes, and destruction, said this man as he left Sidon. We took our belongings and left. Israel wants to hit us, said Joseph Ghaffari in Beirut. It wants to squeeze Hassan Nasrallah to start a war. Nasrallah leads Hezbollah, which is backed by Iran. He has said when there's a ceasefire in Gaza, Hezbollah will stop shelling northern Israel. Months of fighting have forced tens of thousands of Lebanese and Israelis out of their homes. Hezbollah has been dealt heavy blows, including the pager and radio detonations last week that injured thousands. Lebanon's health minister underscored the enormous cost of more escalation. During the last Hezbollah-Israel war, 11,000 people were wounded, but in less than a week this time, nearly 5,000 have been injured already, he said. Israel's strikes continued into the evening, hitting Beirut, where Israel says its target was a Hezbollah leader. Hezbollah, though, still has powerful ballistic missiles it could use against Israeli cities, and Israel could mount a ground offensive, meaning both sides still have plenty of destruction they can unleash. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
And the potential for that destruction is adding new urgency to the calls for de-escalation. Katie Simpson now, with the growing fear the region is on the brink of a much broader war.
The surge in violence between Israel and Hezbollah sparking calls to lower the temperature. From the halls of the United Nations.
To all the parties involved in this conflict is step back from the brink. Stop the escalation.
All the way to the Oval Office in Washington.
My team is in constant contact with their counterparts, and we're working to de-escalate in a way that allows people to return to their homes safely.
The U.S. is so concerned it's sending more troops to the region, a small number of additional forces to bolster the 40,000 troops already there. Calls for calm are failing to bring about change. The president of Iran told reporters it will continue to back Hezbollah as long as the U.S. provides military support to Israel. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel will continue to defend itself.
The question is where does everybody go?
This former U.S. Middle East peace advisor says Hezbollah can't win a conflict by air.
They're well armed, but they don't have the ability to really penetrate in a devastating way.
And so he's predicting this becomes some sort of ground conflict.
I think Hezbollah will try to lure the Israelis in and then engage in a terrorist ground operation.
Canadians in Lebanon are being urged to leave now while they still can.
We all need to understand the real risks to the hundreds of thousands, indeed millions of people living in Lebanon who can be devastated if this gets even more out of hand.
As Canada's diplomats echo those calls for restraint.
I really do think that if we have a humanitarian disaster going on in Gaza, and we don't want another one in Lebanon.
And that, Adrian, is the concern of so many others at the United Nations.
And so, Katie, it really does seem like all sides are bracing for this to get much worse.
Yeah, there's no apparent momentum around ceasefire talks, and no matter how much American officials plead with negotiators to try to reach a deal, it's just not working. U.S. officials are now reportedly telling journalists they don't think Israel's strategy, ramping up pressure on Hezbollah, is going to de-escalate tensions. The U.S. has publicly criticized Israeli tactics before, but it continues to provide billions of dollars in weapons support to its ally.
All right, Katie Simpson reporting in Washington tonight. Thanks, Katie. Thanks. The man accused of plotting to kill Donald Trump at his golf course last week allegedly detailed his intent to kill in a handwritten letter. Court documents show Ryan Ruth wrote a note several months ago saying this was an assassination attempt and offered a bounty on Trump's life, outlining dates and locations of Trump's schedule. U.S. federal prosecutors say the Department of Justice plans to charge Ruth with attempting to assassinate a major political candidate. Two separate searches for missing children in two provinces have very different outcomes tonight. Starting in a First Nation in northern Manitoba, where searchers have found the body of a missing 6-year-old boy.
We are preparing to send a team in there to work with the community, to work with the family.
Johnson Redhead, who was nonverbal, was last seen Wednesday morning at a breakfast program at his school. His body was found Sunday in a marshy area after a large-scale search. The RCMP say an autopsy is scheduled and the investigation continues. And in northern BC, there is relief for another family now that they have their 6-year-old girl back home tonight. Their daughter is also nonverbal and had been missing for days. Yvette Bren starts with the raw moment they were reunited.
A mother embraces her 6-year-old girl, found alive and safe after 3 days in the bush.
Look at our strong baby girl. She's getting shy. We just wanted to come on here and personally thank everyone.
That reunion after hundreds flocked to help search for the girl. On Sunday, a search and rescue team was calling out the child's name.
One of our members actually heard a noise, and then we were quiet, and then we heard it again, and one of the members said, "That's a child's voice."
The girl has autism and is mostly nonverbal, but she could make a noise.
She heard us, and then we started calling back to her, and she was calling back to us, and it was amazing.
The girl was shoeless in dense bush about 2 kilometers from her home.
If you're going back there, you're following a game trail or you're hacking your way through.
Her mother's elation tinged with grief for a northern Manitoba family whose ordeal ended much differently.
My heart hurts for the little boy that got lost and didn't get to make it home.
6-year-old Johnson Redhead, also nonverbal, had been missing since Wednesday. His body was found Sunday night in a wooded area about 3 kilometers from his school.
Take a moment of silence.
She says when children go missing, the search needs to start sooner. She's convinced the huge and fast response to her own online plea helped bring their child home safe.
Hug your babies tight. It could happen to anyone, and all it takes is just a second.
And they hope others learn from what they went through. Yvette Brand, CBC News, Vancouver.
New research suggests patients who leave hospital before doctors say they should are much more likely to suffer a drug overdose. Jennifer Yoon takes us through the findings and what can be done to help protect those most vulnerable.
This looks so painful.
An infected hand wound brought this woman to hospital, but she left early, against medical advice. The nurse, now treating her at a supervised consumption site, says the woman felt hospital staff were laughing at her.
They said, "You're a drug user, of course you have an infection."
The nurse is keeping a close eye on the patient, not just for her hand, but for an overdose.
Anytime they've been away and institutionalized, their tolerance drops.
I've left the hospital a few times without my clothing, like my shoes. I had my pants on, of course.
Running out of the hospital in a panic, then overdosing. This man knows the experience well.
It happened about 4 or 5 times here, and it was not a pretty time when it happened.
Someone in the hospital taking the time to explain where he was and that he was safe could have helped break the cycle, he says. A new study in the Canadian Medical Association journal suggests people who leave hospital against medical advice are 10 times more likely to suffer an overdose than someone who leaves when the doctor gives the discharge. The study also found those who initiated an early discharge were likely to have a history of substance use disorder.
Before medically advised discharge is an emergency.
An emergency that can be addressed, say the authors of the study.
We need better treatments to keep people in the hospital, and we need to be better at engaging people with a premature discharge from hospital after they leave.
It might be as fast as pull out the IV and walk out the door.
And so if
managing withdrawal symptoms in hospital could also help, says this psychiatrist.
If we underappreciate the impact of drug withdrawal, then the person might get progressively more uncomfortable until they decide to leave against medical advice.
If the patient does decide to leave, researchers say there are still ways to help, like providing a naloxone kit and providing access to sites like this, so even if they overdose, they won't die. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
After a string of dangerous grizzly bear encounters, Alberta is turning to hunters to help with the problem.
Hunting bears isn't the most effective way of controlling conflicts.
Why some are concerned about what it means for the threatened species. Next. Plus, breaking barriers on the field.
And it is good, no doubt about it.
A new generation of women soar in a game dominated by men. Plus, taken by force in the streets of China and held captive for more than 1,000 days.
There's a dozen men in black, cameras on them, surrounding us.
Now, for the first time, he's telling his story, what got him through the darkest hours.
They are trying to bully and torment and terrorize.
My conversation with Michael Kovrig is coming up. We're back in 2 minutes. Those wild scenes are at a rodeo in Massachusetts on Sunday. 8 bulls escaped their pens and charged through a parking lot before jumping a nearby fence. All but one was corralled a few kilometers away. Well, CBC News has learned more than 7,000 hunters in Alberta have applied to join a new government program to kill specific grizzly bears that pose a threat. As Malika Karim shows us, support is far from unanimous.
These scars,
a painful reminder of how dangerous grizzlies can be.
We were hunting actually only kind of 25 minutes away from home.
Hunting for elk in the foothills east of the Rockies, Carmelo Silvestro heard something behind him.
When I turned, thought maybe it was elk. No, it was not one, but 4 large grizzlies.
One of those grizzlies mauled Silvestro, and DNA tests have shown that same bear had killed a hunter 3 years ago. The attack came just months after the province announced changes to its grizzly bear management plan, a shift that could allow the threatened species to be hunted by the public for the first time in nearly 2 decades, though only 30 licensed hunters have been chosen to take part.
There's nothing about this that resembles a hunt, actually. They'll have a finite area, a finite amount of time to pursue that bear, and they'll be after a specific animal.
The province says it's addressing the rising number of conflicts with bears, but the plan has critics.
What experience does this person have in dealing with conflict bears, not just the fact that they have a hunting license?
Grizzly bears remain a threatened species in Alberta, despite that 18-year hunting ban. And conservation groups worry the plan won't protect people or bears.
Grizzlies have not seen a huge population increase. In 2021, there were an estimated 800 or 900. In 2010, there were about 700 or 800.
Silvestro says he supports hunting the bear that attacked him.
She's a problem bear. She's got that aggressive behavior. She's killed once. There's, nothing to say that she won't do it again.
But because the bear has already killed, no civilian hunters will be used to track and destroy it. The province says fish and wildlife officers will do that on their own. Malika Karim, CBC News, Calgary.
Well, she's made history as a trailblazer on the football field, going where no other woman has gone before.
The Manitoba Bisons have won this homecoming football game on the strength of Maya Turner.
How she's inspiring others to follow in her footsteps. Plus, he was detained in China for years, accused of being a spy. Now he's speaking out about his ordeal for the first time.
The first month, I lost about 10 kilos because I wasn't being cooperative, and so they cut my food rations.
The psychological torture he endured and the precious moments, the birth of his daughter, stolen from him.
What was that little human like to you when you saw her?
The most fantastically heartwarming feeling you can imagine.
My interview with Michael Kovrig. The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next. Now to a version of a classic sports yarn. Younger athlete meets idol, but this one's got more than one twist. The sport is Canadian men's football. The athletes are groundbreaking women. We'll let Karen Pauls pick up the story of their connection.
Go, get down there!
Emily Beauregard's wish for her 18th birthday was to meet Maya Turner, the starting kicker and only woman on the University of Manitoba Bison's men's football team.
Oh my God, you were amazing.
On Saturday, her wish came true.
And I want to do the same as you do. It is really like a men's world, but I think we can take our place in that.
Turner has already done that. Last year, she was the first woman to play and score in a regular season university football game.
The Manitoba Bisons have won this homecoming football game on the strength of Maya Turner.
She instantly became a role model for other young women like Beauregard, a rookie kicker on a Quebec pre-university men's football team, the first woman in the league.
I think like a lot of girls saw her and was like, holy shit, she can do it, I can do it too.
You know, I love to see other girls kicking footballs and playing on men's teams.
All the way from Quebec, coming to watch the Bisons play.
The Bisons have embraced Turner and welcomed Beauregard, who fit right in.
It was very impressive, but it was very nice to see you like win because it was very sketch and I was very pissing on myself. So.
Beauregard and her father flew back to Winnipeg with the team. On Sunday, they got a tour of the University of Manitoba campus and the football complex.
Welcome to the locker room.
Turner has her own changing room.
This is where I hang out.
But her coach, Brian Doby, says she's just one of the guys.
It's so symbolic of what anybody can do regardless of race, gender, etc. Anybody leading the way and taking a risk.
And inspiring other women who dream of kicking down barriers. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. Tonight, my interview with Michael Kovrig, perhaps better recognized by many Canadians as one of the two Michaels.
We came up a spiral staircase in front of my apartment, and boom. There's a dozen men in black.
It is the stuff of an international action thriller.
Shouting in Chinese, "That's him." Put a blindfold over my eyes.
Canadian Michael Kovrig, captured by China under the darkness of night, jailed, alone, accused of spying without evidence.
I've never been a spy of any kind.
One of two Canadians, the Michaels, grabbed in Beijing after a Chinese executive was arrested in Canada. Now, 3 years after he came home to Canada, he tells his story for the first time to CBC News. On the cruel days and nights and who he blames.
The dark heart of it is the Communist Party.
The suspicions he knows still linger about whether he was a spy.
Yeah, that really hurt. It hurt for a range of reasons.
And missing the birth of his daughter, meeting her for the first time.
And pushing my daughter on a swing and her saying to her mother, "Mommy, I'm so happy."
Michael Kovrig was captive in China for 1,019 days. I am curious, as you come back to Canada and you meet people and you say, "Hi, I'm Michael Kovrig. What's the next line?"
You've hit on an exact issue, actually, the whole point of identity, and that was a lot of what this was about. Because when you're detained, right, you're in a system that is trying to force a different identity on you, right? To destroy you psychologically and convince you that no, you're a bad man, you're a prisoner, you're a hostage.
You're a spy.
Exactly.
The CFO and daughter of Huawei's founder was arrested while changing flights in Canada.
An arrest that is sending ripples through the global stock market this morning.
Can I take you, if you don't mind, to December 1st, 2018? So Meng Wanzhou, the CFO of Huawei, is arrested in Vancouver. Do you remember how you heard about that and what went through your mind at the time?
This was a big deal, and not everybody seemed to entirely understand just how big a deal. And that the Chinese government was going to be furious and that they were sure to retaliate somehow.
So let's bring in our panel, Michael Kovrig.
His analysis mattered. The former diplomat was working as an Asia advisor for the International Crisis Group.
Clear that some North Korean senior official is visiting Beijing.
Incredibly, he was the one many in the media and world capitals first reached out to for insight as to what Meng's arrest by the RCMP at the urging of the Americans might mean. So can you take me to the moment when you were grabbed? What happened?
So it was about 10 o'clock at night. I had just finished dinner with my partner, and we were walking across the plaza in an area called Sanlitun Soho. It's this very sort of science fiction Blade Runner style Japanese architecture set of skyscrapers.
A hard place to explain, perhaps, so it helps that Michael Kovrig found this video online that almost exactly recreates their precise steps in that precise neighborhood that night.
We came up a spiral staircase right in front of the plaza, in front of my apartment building. And boom, there's a dozen men in black, cameras on them, surrounding us, shouting in Chinese, "That's him." They grabbed me, they grabbed my phone out of my hand so I couldn't make a call, they pinned my arms, they pulled my partner, who at the time was 6 months pregnant, away from me. They wouldn't let me get to her. And then they just started pushing me toward a black SUV, pushed me into the car, slapped handcuffs on me, and then put a blindfold over my eyes. My mind went very quiet, and just before they pushed me into the car, I looked back at my partner. We made eye contact for a split second, and I just tried to, I don't know, be safe, take care of yourself. I will get out of this one day, but I don't know when I'll ever see you again.
Did you have any sense of where you were being taken?
So I had a sense they were taking me somewhere in South Beijing. It took about 45 minutes, and then car slows, crunch of gravel, gate opening, lots of dogs barking, not a good sign, up an elevator, into an office, sat me in a hard chair, pulled the blindfold off, and suddenly it's like staring at bright lights like we've got here. And sitting at a desk is an older Chinese man with thick glasses. At that point they said, you are under suspicion of endangering China's state security. You are going to be interrogated. And at that point, a chill went down my spine, and that was not a good moment. And then they took me out of that room, down the hall, blindfolded again, into what proved to be a padded cell.
How long were you in that room?
Nearly 6 months. Solitary confinement. That room was essentially my universe.
Are you able to draw this?
Yeah, sure. So let's see what we can do here. So you've got, let's say, bathroom here. There's your bed. A couple of armchairs here. I was never allowed to sit in them. You've got the bathroom here, door here, big thick door. And then outside here, you've got a hallway. And then here you've got the interrogation room. Interrogation room is not very complicated. You've got a chair that you sit in, a long kind of desk or counter on this side, and then you've got the interrogators sitting here. They are trying to bully and torment and terrorize and coerce you into accepting their false version of reality, locking you into a chair for hours on end.
Like how?
It's almost like sort of an adult version of a kid's high chair, right? High-backed wooden chair, and there's a board that goes over the front of it like a tray that they lock so that you can't get out of it. The first month, I lost about 10 kilos because I wasn't being cooperative, and so they cut my food rations to 3 bowls of rice a day. And so I realized what I had to do was somehow find iron discipline and take back control of my own mind and my own time. So when I wasn't being interrogated, I would start the day by doing yoga. So I started doing regular exercise.
You can do a mean plank, I understand.
So after a few months, I clocked up to 12 minutes, and then I blew past it. By the end of the time that I was there, I got up to about half an hour of a plank.
You talked about being moved, and when you were moved, you were with people then, suddenly. It wasn't solitary anymore.
That was kind of like moving from hell to limbo. The cell was larger, had high ceilings, and there was daylight coming in through plexiglass windows very high up on the walls there. So I had a series of about a dozen Chinese men as cellmates, and that was the following sort of 2 years while I was in detention.
While in detention, every now and then he was allowed a hint of connection. Books, letters, and curiously, a weather-beaten travel magazine given to him during a consular visit so he could dream. The letters were lifelines. As his little one grew without him, he wrote long notes she'll read one day. "Happy first birthday, my beautiful baby." And to his family, he needed ways to tell them how he was really feeling and yet get it past the guards. Such a music lover, he realized the mere mention of a favorite song might tip them to search the lyrics.
So we were all fans of Leonard Cohen. I've been a huge fan for years. And I was able to get a book of his lyrics and poems. So one was Anthem, and it has that line.
I have the lyrics here, if you want to look at them. I bet you know them off by heart.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah, ring the bells that still can ring. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. The letters from my loved ones were like the light coming through the cracks in the darkness. And the whole point of ringing the bells was basically a metaphor to not stop advocating, to keep this issue on the front, on the desk of everybody with the power to resolve it.
And who were his advocates? Among the many, one extraordinary woman. When we come back, his thoughts for his separated wife, Vina Najibullah. perhaps Michael Kovrig's most vocal advocate, Vina Najabola. If there was a political door to bang on, a document to find, a plea to be made, she did it.
Stop saying we can't when, according to the law, we can.
She's an international affairs and China expert, but most importantly to Michael, she was his best friend, his separated wife. At what point did you become aware of what she was doing?
By the second consular meeting, I knew that she was involved, and that gave me a lot of hope. As she realized it was going to be a marathon, not a sprint, she threw herself into it. She put her entire career aside and focused on this nonstop, every day, for 1,000 days. And she did, frankly, a heroic work on that. I'm so grateful to her. I'm grateful to my current partner who helped at the beginning with that kind of advocacy, but then had to give birth to our child. And we agreed that her number one priority had to be protecting our daughter, and she did that.
As Kovrig's detention wore on, Canadians started asking hard questions of their government.
We will continue to do whatever we feel gives the best chance of bringing them home.
What exactly was it doing? What more should Canada have done for you to get you out?
I think the key element is to recognize that Canada always had the authority. The Canadian Justice Minister had the authority to interrupt the process at any point and essentially end it. But there were also costs and consequences to doing that.
Should Canada have done more, particularly in the Meng Wanzhou case? I
think that the key lesson with regard to Canada on this was that you need to be better prepared and have a strategy. If the government is going to do something that is going to be angering, or if there is a risk of your citizens being detained, you need to have plans and procedures and strategies in place to deal with it. For a number of reasons, the Canadian government was not prepared. The US government wasn't prepared for the blowback from arresting Meng Wanzhou. I think somewhat different approaches and a quicker understanding of the problems would have led to hopefully a faster resolution. But what I would say on that is that ultimately it took President Joe Biden to make the hard decisions that others were not willing or able to make previously. At the end of the day, you need to prioritize getting your citizens home. That is the fundamental responsibility of the state, is to protect its own citizens.
What Michael Kovrig did not know for a long time is that he wasn't the only Canadian held. The same time he was grabbed, in the north of China, another Canadian was being plucked off the streets, Michael Spavor, a man with a lifelong fascination with North Korea, a guide who had met Kim Jong-un, who had arranged the infamous North Korea trip with NBA star Dennis Rodman. At what point did you learn that another Canadian had been taken, Michael Spavor had been taken?
So nobody told me that he had been detained until maybe March 2019 or later, when they were interrogating me. They were pressing me on, who were the most useful and informative foreigners that you talked to about China? Who were the best analysts? And I was sort of thinking to myself, going down a list of all the people that I knew, and they were getting increasingly frustrated. And finally, they're like, what about Michael Spavor? And I just looked at him like he had two heads, because to me this was absurd.
Why absurd?
Because Michael Spavor was a tour guide, essentially. He was running a travel agency that specialized in taking tourists into North Korea. He didn't speak Chinese. He was not someone that it would even have occurred to me would have sort of expert insights on China.
You'd met him?
Yes.
And you'd spoken with him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. I knew him. I hadn't seen him in a long time at that point. He knew many of the diplomats at the Canadian embassy.
And so they were suggesting that you had spoken with him, got information from him, and then shared it.
They had absolutely no evidence of that. And in the actual interrogation, they fairly quickly moved on from that, deciding that there wasn't any there. And then when I was put on trial, there was no further discussion of him. So they brought him up early on in the interrogation, but then dropped it because they decided there was no there.
When we come back, some hard questions that have hurt.
I guess he was a spy. I guess Michael Kovrig was a spy. That kind of got embedded for people again.
First of all, it's not true.
Things have been moving very, very quickly indeed. And what happens now to Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig?
We're following major breaking news tonight. Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig have been released from China.
In Toronto, a moment Canadians may hold dear, a hug. A 30-second long hug with tireless advocate Veena Najibullah. Away from the cameras, a most treasured experience, meeting his little girl for the first time. She was 2.5 years old.
What was that little human like to you when you saw her?
It's the most fantastically heartwarming feeling you can imagine. And she's bright, super extroverted, super friendly, much more socially adept than I am, frankly.
Where did she get that from?
Good question. Not from me. I was in solitary confinement when she was born. I couldn't be there. But fortunately, her mother had done a great job of preparing her for who Daddy was. And so she knew me immediately, playing, she would play recordings of my voice. So she immediately knew I was Daddy. I remember one scene where I was pushing her on a swing. This was the Sunday where we were walking around in the sunshine. And everything looked extraordinarily beautiful to me. I was looking at trees, I was looking at flowers, and I'll never forget that sense of wonder, of everything being new and wonderful again, and pushing my daughter on a swing, and her saying to her mother, "Mommy, I'm so happy."
Hey. Both Michaels have been home for 3 years now. They've been seen briefly, but largely disappeared from public conversation until this past year, with reports that Michael Spavor, alleged Michael Kovrig, was perhaps to blame for his detention. There was a threat to sue. It was never carried out. But this reignited questions about what Kovrig was doing in China.
What started happening is that a lot of people started saying, well, I guess he was a spy. I guess Michael Kovrig was a spy. That kind of got embedded for people again.
Yeah, that really hurt. It hurt for a range of reasons. First of all, it's not true. I've never been a spy of any kind. I was a foreign service officer, a diplomat. Before that, I was a journalist years earlier. I was a researcher. The kind of work I do requires complete transparency and it requires trust. Frankly, I was disappointed at how quickly so many people were ready to believe a narrative that was based on zero evidence. The original story is the true story. It's not that complicated.
Are you and Michael Spavor okay? Could you pick up the phone and call him now and be okay?
I would not have a problem talking to him. It's up to him whether he wants to talk to me. I asked him at the time to make a public statement that he wasn't somehow pursuing me, because it got turned into some story where it was him against me, and that was, I could see that was not his intention. He declined to comment publicly because I think he was focused on his legal proceedings. I just think it was deeply unfortunate that his efforts to try to put his life back together again ended up being conducted in that kind of an antagonistic way, when the government had agreed from the beginning they wanted to support us and help us get back to normal life.
So as of now, Michael Spavor has settled with Ottawa. Michael Kovrig referred us to the government in this matter, and no one responded. He may be free, but there's no ending yet, and dealing with what felt like the randomness of what happened still lurks for him.
They wanted hostages, and they wanted to grab somebody, and if I hadn't been there, it would have been someone else. So one small comfort I take away from that actually is that probably I spared somebody else from that ordeal by going through it myself.
Okay. My last question is, are you okay?
I'm doing quite well, thank you, but it takes a lot of work. And I appreciate you taking the time. I think we have a lot more to talk about in future about what needs to be done.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Adrian.
So we reached out to Michael Spavor and his lawyer to put to them what Michael Kovrig has said. We're still waiting for a statement. As for Michael Kovrig, tomorrow is the 3rd anniversary of his release, and he intends to spend it with his family, as he has every year since, to be with those he missed for so long. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.